Hi everyone, I'm Echoes, I'm a VTuber, and I'll be providing a live review of Naja 2 since I actually just saw it a few hours ago. So, just a warning though, if you haven't seen the first Naja, by the way, you should watch that first because then it'll make sense of how it leads into Naja 2, which is a direct continuation and sequel to it. And you could watch the original Naja on YouTube for free right now. I'll put the link in the description, but if you just look up Naja, movie or film, you could probably easily just look it up on YouTube. Watch that first, because it'll make things make more sense, what I'll explain. So anyway, assuming you've watched Naja or interested in watching Naja 2, I gotta say, Naja 2 is a significantly better film than the original, or than the first one. And as in, like, if the original is like a 6 or 7, this is easily solid 8, 9, I would say. Very, very good movie. It's not the most complicated, but you don't need a complicated film to have a good film. You just have to execute everything. So why is it good? First, it develops more on Naja and Albing, right? Naja's Naja and Albing is, you know, the son of the Dragon King, right? Develops more of those two. It creates more depth to their bond as they go through grief and losses and word about their families, that sort of thing. There's that. You also get development of a lot of the villains. There's quite a few of them. We get Albing's teacher, who we learn a lot more about. We learn about his family due to plot, of course. He becomes a lot more of a nuanced character than what you previously assumed he was being a one-note villain. He's actually kind of complicated. We learn also more about the dragons, which was alluded in the first film at the end, about them being stuck, kind of having to imprison all the abyss monsters and all that stuff. And that is definitely one of the main plots involving the dragons and them being sealed underneath via a big nail or pole, essentially. There's that. And then we also deal with the introduction of the cultivators of heaven. So, and also how either people or, I guess they call them demons, I believe, or spirits. I think something like that. It's like beasts or spirits, right? They can also become immortal. So humans can become immortal and spirits can become immortal, or beasts, I guess. Or I think they call Yao Guai. Don't know the best way to describe it. They're not really demons. They're like not human, but they're more animalistic, right? Can be also animals, right? So we learn more about them too. I think they're called demons, I feel. Yeah, I think they're called demons. Okay, so we'll just stick with that for now. So their relationship with the cultivators, you know, is very common in Chinese culture where, you know, either people or beasts or animals can eventually go through a variety of trials to eventually ascend to immortality or godhood, right? So that's one of the biggest, new features of this film that was not really talked about in the first film, but was definitely talked about here, especially with how do I describe it? Essentially that the relationship is kind of complicated. It's not so simple. You get this idea that just because you're immortal or, you know, ascended being doesn't always mean you're good. And just because you're a demon or abyss or you're a monster doesn't mean you're evil. So there's that ambiguity between what is truly good, what's evil. It's not like completely black and white, rather a lot of shades of gray, which I appreciate. Definitely a bit more nuance to relationship, especially involving dragons, which even the dragons are usually considered, you know, very divine, high level, extremely wise beings, but even they are not always good or evil. It could be a bit more complicated than that. So that's also covered too. The only issue is I can't really cover plot, because if I cover the plot too much, it'll ruin the film for a lot of people. But I will say that it's 2 hour, 24 minute run, worth it every second. It's never boring. It continues to keep up the pace. It continues its momentum without ever being slow. So every minute's worth it, and also has very good fight scenes. Obviously, this is a Chinese film. You always get cool martial arts, but man, you get like small scale to large scale, like army to like tons and tons of different like creatures fighting against each other. Very cool. So that's a part of it, and also The film has also quite a lot of twists that you may or may not expect, but they are foreshadowed. So if you catch them while watching, then you're like, oh, it kind of pays off later. So that's always good. Also got to say, some of the best people in this film is Albing's dad, the Dragon King. Very cool, very hot, very good. We also get more of a insight into Noja's parents, especially his mom in this case. She's rather sweet, and his dad is rather... we learn more about his dad in the first film, so it's good that mother had a focus in this film. And yeah, and also Albing's teacher, who's interesting as well. He gets a significant development, as mentioned before. Yeah. Because in a way, this film definitely has like, what do you call it? It feels like overall complete. Like if the first film is kind of like the prologue or maybe first quarter, I guess, of like a story, right? This is like second and third parts. It kind of wraps up all the loose ends and kind of gives you a satisfying conclusion, though the conclusion isn't conclusive. It's still kind of open to what could happen in the next movie, which I think is a little more vague. Even after watching the end credits scene, I'm still not sure how things will go. But it will be interesting, though, if you get more on the other sex. Because this film, like both film, the first and the second, do focus a lot on family. But this one, the second one especially does, because we get different types of families. We get Noja's family, Albing's family, we get Albing's teacher's family. I think those are probably the most important families, if I can remember correctly. Mostly those three. But in a way, their dynamics are all drastically different. So you kind of get a whole spectrum of how parents would treat their kids, how important their kids are to them, that sort of thing. And also, besides the whole thing about like not heaven is not always good, demons are not always evil, right? We also get this emphasis that in a way, even if you're considered immortal, doesn't mean that you're not subject to some sort of corruption, right? It's kind of like, the idea that you could scale a mountain, right? You when you reach the top, you forget what it's like to be on the bottom. I think you kind of get that sense involved in the morals. They're so removed from like all the normal people, the normal humans, the normal creatures, that they forget themselves and they could easily become something else. That's, I think, it's kind of scary, but in a way it shows like sometimes when you gain or lose immortality, right? You gain or lose something else. So it's not always, what's it called? Not always, I guess, a good thing, right? Because normally in cultivation stories, you always aspire to get stronger, right? It's kind of like you ascend in order to gain like some sort of enlightenment of sorts, right? But in a way, both, I guess Noja in particular, he does gain a sort of enlightenment through honing his spirit through a little fire, and also through incredible grief, that he's able to eventually ascend to a higher level of being, right? And he did that all on his own. He didn't on his own, but also with the help of other people. Don't forget, he did try his best though, of what he could do by himself. Because because the interesting thing is that him and Albing, right? They're essentially, you get the demon pearl and spirit pearl, right? Red and blue, right? Demon versus divine, right? And in a way, they are truly at their best together, right? They're like 2 in 1, yin and yang, half and half each other. They balance each other out, which I think in a way accentuates the strength of their relationship, which is obviously friendship for sure, but could be implied to be other things, of course, but it's like there always will be a pair, so that will not change. But yeah, so good stuff. I think if anyone had any doubts regarding this film, just watch it. It's worth it, I swear. 100% worth it. Definitely highly recommend if you want to see Noja and Albing's growth, you want to see really cool plot, you want to see really cool fight scenes, things, and also very funny too. If you like laughing, and also you'll feel sad, so you'll cry sometimes. So it's like, it really pulls through all the emotions, but it never feels too forced. It feels like a natural part of watching this film. It just comes when you see it or experience it, which I think is the best of film, because lately there hasn't been that many movies I've been interested in. Been disappointed quite a lot. Like, I didn't really like Suzume. I didn't really like Boy and the Heron. They were kind of eh. But with this film, Noja 2, 100% worth it. Glad I spent the time watching it, and looking also forward to the Gundam G Crux will be coming out in around 2 weeks or so. So I'm not complaining about having a movie packed a month or so, because that doesn't happen often. But yeah. Anyway, I hope this may answer your questions, though if you have any other specific questions, I'll feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them. But yeah, but if you wanted like something fresh, something new, something that feels exciting and worth your time, I think you'll like this movie. Just watch the first one first, because it will make more sense. The first movie, as mentioned, isn't as good, but it is vital to watching the second one, because you need that build up to get the climax, right? Just like anything else. In the beginning, it's just, it definitely has a climax, but it's still the build up. You still don't quite get, like, it doesn't quite reveal all its cards, you know? But yeah. Anyway, hope you enjoyed watching this brief review. Overall, Noja 2 gives everything you want. Solid characters, good plot, good fight scenes, very good cinematography. It's quite funny at times. It will keep you engaged throughout the whole runtime until the very end. So yeah, thank you so much, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Take care.